Welcome to the California Automated Drone Podcast, where we talk to the experts in the field about their experiences in the drone industry. I am your host, Josh Friedman, and I am so excited to be here today with Darryl Anunciado with Action Drone Inc., based in San Diego, California. We are going to talk about drone manufacturing and some amazing, unique uses for custom-made drones that are made right here in the USA.
There are drone sports community groups in just about every community.
Oh, I want to be a drone service provider, and I'm going to go do drone mapping. Well, for what?
All of the things that I've done is to promote safety for our industry.
But if you really want to go in depth into understanding what you're doing, a community college along with online learning is a way to go.
Hey Darryl, thanks so much for being here. How's it going down there in San Diego?
Well, I can't complain. San Diego weather's always good, and it never kind of gets too cold or too hot. So we're good here. Yeah, it's good.
As long as you're keeping it classy. That was a San Diego joke. Anyway, right? So we're here with Darryl today. Darryl, you are the CEO of the company, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about Action Drone Inc. and how you got started in this.
So the company started in August of 2013, and basically I was in the finance banking field working full-time, and then just on a side hobby, I wanted to actually look into building flying stuff, and new things were coming in terms of technology, and that was flight controllers that were becoming available for the consumer and kind of like the hobbyist market. So I jumped into that and started building my own drone, actually in this room I'm sitting in right now. And from there on, I started posting it on Facebook and YouTube, and people wanted to buy it. And I didn't know it was called a drone, because basically what it was an RC aircraft that had a flight controller and a GoPro attached to it. And so all I wanted to do was capture videos. That's really all I wanted to do. And it evolved from there, had a few people wanting to buy the kits that I built. And then from there on, it became serious when the government started knocking on our door and basically asking us to build custom aircrafts, or what it's called drones now. And so that's really where we got into and how this company started. 7 years from now, hopefully we're still around, but it's been pretty good for us, and it's been
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
I actually got into drones the exact same year in 2013, and I was flying a GoPro on a camera. We were already doing video production at that time, and we were using it just as a quick, cheap, easy way to get that aerial perspective that we weren't able to get without like a helicopter before then,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was impossible for us to get a good video camcorder in the air, because GoPros didn't exist. So when GoPros came out, I was like, hey, camera is so small, I could finally attach it to an aircraft. And that's really behind it. I bought the GoPro first, and my love for aviation came second, and then that really basically how it all started.
I think it's a really common story, actually. I hear a lot of people, been saying a long time as an educator, the two different inlets to the drone industry early on was either you were a photo video person who then decided, hey, I want to learn how to fly this stuff, or you were in the RC aviation space and went, oh my gosh, the video technology, like you said, is now light enough and cheap enough that we can get it to work. Thank goodness the gimbals came down in price as well, because I'm sure you remember those shaky footage early on with the GoPro Heroes 2s and 3s until they finally had something we could put it on, which we still had to stabilize, but right?
Yeah, it was insane. My first prototype, I had to create my own gimbal, but it was so bad. I traveled with it to Peru to go to Machu Picchu, catch some videos, and then I come back, all my videos on that gimbal were very shaky because I didn't know how to tune a servo type gimbal, and so it made me want to build a better gimbal, and that's when controllers for gimbal on better motors and things like that came out, and that's when I started putting it on the drone. That's actually how the company started, because we were able to develop a gimbal that could hold a GoPro steady enough that the video quality is usable for people that actually wanted to make videos. So our first customer was a Brazilian professor who used our drone to map out their dig site. And then our second customer was a guy from Mexico City who used the drone to actually create cinematography videos for commercial use. So he was the guy that made commercials for a lot of Mexican TV stations. So he used that as a tool, and that's when I knew. I was like, wow, there's a lot of uses for this. Let me start a company.
I mean, I'm glad that you did. I know that you are too. I'm curious about your background real quickly, though. So, you're talking about adjusting gimbals and using controllers. In order to do that, I think there's multiple skill sets. There's a robotics and engineering side, but also the software development side. Do you do both sides of that? And if so, how did you get trained in that?
So I didn't have any training at all. In college, I was really into aviation. I joined the Air Force ROTC to become a pilot. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. So I dropped out of the Air Force ROTC and just finished my degree in psychology. And then from there on, went into finance, which is weird. But my understanding of gimbals and controllers and basically software and engineering aspect of building a drone was kind of like self-taught. There's a lot of information out there now where you could just pick up a book or actually just go online, right? And all these current information, because they're shared so fast by people that are developing, that you kind of learn from them, and then you start developing your own stuff from the things you learn online. And that's really where I learned a lot of it. I'm already at a point where, a lot of the guys I work with, they're way smarter than I am. So there's things that they do, it's just way out of my league in terms of understanding the engineering of some of the things that we do. So, but in the beginning, it was all hands-on, reading and studying and all that
And I
stuff.
imagine they have a variety of backgrounds as well, probably ranging from bachelor's degrees to, the community college system obviously has a lot of opportunities for classes in robotics, engineering, software development, and obviously drones as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we actually, so I get a lot of resumes, especially from graduate students and stuff like that. I mean, impressive resumes. But the one thing that I always look at is that how interested were you before, in terms of the drone industry, before you even got into school or before you even graduated from school? So I always ask that same question, it's like, have you built a drone? They say no. It's like, why are you applying here? But we have a lot of people that just dropped out of college but knows a lot about drones. In fact, one of our guys, he basically dropped out of college because he was teaching the professor how to build the drone better. And so we basically ended up working with him. He was also one of our first customers in Denmark, right? And then we ended up, working with him, and he now works in our wind turbine, basically getting our contracts globally.
I love it. Well, now let's talk a little more about your company as it is right now. So Action Drone Inc., you manufacture drones, and I got wind of you, if I could say, early on when I believe you were not only manufacturing the drones, but you were manufacturing ground stations and sticks for GPS. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's what you were doing then. Tell us a little bit about that, if I am correct, and then where you are now and what are some of the fun projects that you're working on.
Right. So when you and I met, man, it's been a long time. So we were just really just starting. I think I actually just left the home office, and I was really building a lot of that stuff here in this room. Like literally, I would contract the cutting of the carbon fiber stuff and then assembling it in this room. But this room almost caught fire because of the batteries and stuff. So I got kicked out of this room. My wife basically said, "You cannot endanger us because of your hobby." And I was like, all right. So I got a small office and then started building from there. That's when you and I met. And basically from there on, it became kind of like it was still a hobbyist thing, right? Where I was building kits and then I was selling it to people. But from there on, it moved into the government sector, because literally how it started was the Navy knocked on our door on the new office. I didn't have furniture, and how they found us was through Facebook, which is completely like weird, right? And I'm still friends with that guy that actually messaged me through Facebook when he was still in the Navy. He's like, "Hey, Darryl, I saw what you posted on your Facebook. Can we talk? Our command is looking into buying some of these small drones that you're building." And I was like, "Okay." And I actually thought it was fake. So I was like, "Whatever, come show up," right? And I didn't prepare at all. I just bought tables from IKEA for the small conference room that we had, but I didn't have any chairs because we didn't have money back then. Like literally all the money that we had and made had to go back to buying supplies. So we had a Bosu ball for sitting, a box, and things like that, and folding chairs. Next thing you know, like the actual day that they said they would come, they showed up, and there was like 3 vans, like unmarked vans with government plates. I was like, oh crap, this is real. And then and I was like, dang, and they're introducing the ranks and things like that. I was like, oh bro, dude, this is real. And so that's when we first got into really making our company more focused towards government entities and companies that are looking to use the drones for not just hobby purposes but actual work stuff. And so now we're building drones for different government entities and international governments. So our current customers, the Peruvian military, the Japanese government, and then the U.S. government. Those are our main focus in customers right now. We're always developing new drones for what they need. So to give you an idea, Japan's when we first built their prototype, it was for an actual use where when they have emergency uses like earthquakes and tidal waves and all that stuff, they were going to fly this drone and map out how bad the disaster is. And it's a drone made for mapping. The Peruvian guys, they're a little bit different. They're looking for, farms that are coca plants and drug stuff. So they basically had us build drones for that. And then the U.S. government, there's just a bunch of different stuff that we do here. I mean, that drone right there behind us is for U.S. government. I just don't know which U.S. government because they don't tell us. But
and I understand you obviously can't share everything with us right now, and that's completely understandable. I want to just jump on one point, by the way, and what a great story about how it all got started. And that is, we on the CaliforniaAutomated.com website, we have a whole section of what I consider the most popular groups on Facebook for networking within the drone industry. And I've been teaching for a long time, at least, as of this point still, the drone industry is on Facebook. It just might be our demographic or the average age, whatever it is, there is a ton of business happening every single day for drone pilots on Facebook. We get jobs all the time from Facebook. I get advice, I get hints, tips, tricks, ways to make our gear better. And so I'm actually not surprised at all, that somebody found you on Facebook and that was the beginning of it. You just never, ever know. I am curious though, and the drone behind you, I realize if people are just viewing or listening and not viewing, it's an orange quadcopter and it has these plastic blades on the bottom of it. It looks a little bit like a scorpion's legs. What is that intended for? What's it supposed to be used for by the government?
So basically that drone is supposed to pick up stuff and drop off stuff, right? So initially it's supposed to drop off something and then pick it up. So that's what it is. But the claw design was because it needs to dig into sand. So we don't know really what it's for. We just get metrics of what it needs to do. And then we test it based on simulated things that it's supposed to do. But then after that, we deliver it to whoever our customers are. We just know it's a U.S. government entity because the checks come from the U.S. government, which is nice. So we know that that's what it's for. Unfortunately, I have no idea what it's going to end up doing.
This is a common situation with those that work for government. I do have a question about working for government, as long as we're talking about it from an entrepreneurial perspective. What does a company need in order to secure government contracts? Is there a specific licensing? Is there specific metrics you have to follow? What does your company have to do in order to get some government contracts, specifically with the U.S.?
Yeah, so it's really difficult, right? So the companies that have it easy are big companies like IBM, Lockheed Martin, all that stuff. they have a whole team, the whole department just dealing with government paperwork. Government paperwork can literally bankrupt you just trying to, get inside with the legal aspect of it. So what we've done in ways of us to be able to do business is partner with big companies and actually be a subcontractor for what they need, right? We just need to abide by certain rules and regulations like ITAR stuff, making sure that we're not using technology that is not allowed for U.S. government. And then we submit paperwork for that. And then our big company that we partner with help us on actually getting the legality of it done. And so, but unfortunately, they take a big portion of our profit. But it's better than not having one.
I understand that completely. So we're talking about an American-made drone company. By the way, I've been promoting for years. Somebody should take this who's listening. That if somebody just starts a company and calls it American-made drones, it doesn't even really matter what you make. Okay, it does. You should make good drones. But there is a huge push and need right now in the United States of America for companies that make American-made drones because of a potential threat that could be the drones may have. I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to get into politics of it. But for you, when it comes to manufacturing, what does that mean? I mean, are all of your parts made locally right where you are? Is some coming from one place, some from another? How does that work from a manufacturing perspective?
So we source globally, right? And that's including China, which is kind of like where a lot of the drone customers, especially in the government entity, doesn't want to hear like, oh, my components are coming from China or the sensitive components coming from China. But in regards to our ways of manufacturing, we don't just service American customers, right? We have international customers that don't really care about what other policies are that we have here in the U.S. They tend to have their own policies. So they require their own certification. So, for example, the Japanese government or the Japanese customers, they're very strict. They're actually harder than the U.S. Government or U.S. customers because they have all these requirements in terms of certifications in radio frequencies and things like that. So what we end up doing is sourcing it with different parts of the world, and it could be a Chinese radio, but if it's certified by the Japanese government, we'll put that into the Japanese drone. But that same drone will work on the U.S. soil without that Chinese component. We just swap it out with, some other component that we have here in the U.S. So we source from everywhere depending on who the customer is. That's actually how we map out what components we put into the drone. So because we're able to do that, we've been very flexible, and because we're very flexible, we're able to win a lot of contracts.
I love it. And it sounds to me from the conversation we had before that you're sourcing parts from different places, but you're actually assembling them and putting them together locally right where you are in the San Diego area. Is that correct?
Correct, because we're not experts at everything, right? I'm not an expert. Our company is not an expert in developing propellers. So what we do is we work with designers and engineers and actually also manufacturers to design a specific propeller that we want, and we source it from them, and then we basically put that here. And the same thing with flight controllers, sensors, all that stuff. We let the expert do their thing, and then we basically create a wish list of what we want or what our customers want. And then we test it here in San Diego, make sure that it does what it's supposed to do, and then deliver it to the customer.
I love it. So you've got a video that you've kind of prepared to share with us, demonstrating at least one aspect of one of your drones. Why don't you go ahead and cue that up, and love to hear a little bit more about what we're about to watch in the video.
Well, this video is basically one of our promotional video that we made for our new service, which is inspecting wind turbines. But not only that, we actually partnered with other companies to develop a drone that will specifically inspect wind turbines without having you to fly it. So let me show you this video right now, and then I'll explain a little bit more. So basically, in this video, this is an actual work site that we did in Washington. And what we're doing here is an actual live wind turbine inspection. And so the wind turbine farms are usually really big, similar to this, and there's a lot of wind turbines everywhere. And most of the time, they want you to inspect hundreds of wind turbines in a month. Before that, we were only able to do maybe 3 or 5 wind turbines in a day. So it was really difficult because you're manually flying the drone, clicking the camera button, making sure you have the right overlay, right? And each turbine is not the same. I mean, some are big, some are kind of small, but some are really big. And I'm talking about big enough so that you can't barely see the drone when it's up there. So what we've done is we worked with a company in Korea that have developed a technology that could automate the wind turbine itself in terms of inspecting it and creating a flight path. And then we put this on a typical drone like a DJI 600 or so. But what we did is we modified it so that the drone will talk to its flight controller via the sensing capability, the distance between the drone itself, and then also the cameras that actually figure out that that is a wind turbine and knows what part of the wind turbine it's in. And so it will automatically trigger the camera and basically create all the mapped out inspection for you without having you to do all the work. What that has done for us is basically, instead of us doing only 5 or 6 wind turbines a day, we were able to do 32 wind turbines a day. So it made our life a lot easier.
That is awesome. I mean, what a great use for the technology, obviously. And when you're talking about, I'm curious, mapping them, are you using like a mapping software like a Pix4D or something like that? Or you're taking a whole bunch of images, pictures on the way up and pictures all around, and then processing it? Is that kind of how you guys are using it?
Yeah, so we even so not my company, but the company called Nerth Lab that we partnered with from Korea. They created a software that basically puts all that together before the drone actually lands. So by the time it lands, we're able to submit that as one of the reports. But what we ended up finding out is that they don't want that report until the end of the day, anyways. So so what we end up doing is just piling up the report. At the end of the day, we submit the 32 wind turbines that we've inspected. They give us a yes and no, but we've had a pretty good turnaround, meaning the customers are pretty happy with the quality that comes out with because it's very consistent. So the report will already show exactly like it automatically identifies like cracks, lightning strikes, bird hits, and dust and things like that. So by the time they see it, they already have identified what the issues are.
That is fascinating. I mean, and super impressive.
Yeah.
And again, we're always talking about drones for good, using drones to make, jobs easier for people, to make it safer for people. And I bet you could cover way more wind turbines in a single day with a drone, than you could with any human being actually having to physically go up into the turbine and look at them.
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, and I'm not an expert at the manual inspection portion of it, but it used to take them 3 days to do one wind turbines or so. So from that point, if we can do more than that, we've already won.
I love it. So my last question for you is going to be geared toward somebody who's interested in drone manufacturing. They aren't all going to be as lucky as you and have somebody on Facebook just knock on the door and say, hey, we want you to do a project for us, right? But what advice would you give to them? What skills should they learn? What should they be doing now in order to possibly start up their own company one day manufacturing drones?
So I think the drone industry is obviously still in the infancy. So it's still a baby. It's learning how to walk. So right now, I always suggest to tell people, hey, look, there's not a lot of jobs in terms of manufacturing here in the United States yet. And I think it's going to come soon where we're manufacturing and doing maintenance work here. Similar to what general aviation is doing, right? There's always going to be maintenance needed. What I would give advice to is basically before anyone else, because right now there's not a lot of schools that have adopted the drone manufacturing curriculum, right? There's just not a lot of them. So what I would tell you is like, hey, go. If you have spare cash or so, go learn how to build a drone. And there's a lot of fun drones out there that you can build. And if you don't know, you can just seriously just Google it, what type of drone you want it to be. And then you can actually buy the components straight up from just forums, asking people what you need to do. And that's what I did. And from there on, that looks better on the resume that you know how to build a drone than actually telling me that you came from some really nice school, but you had no interest in drones at all.
I love it. That's great advice for sure. And of course, there are some programs that are out there, so I'd encourage people to, look into them and see what they are. But, I find as an educator, my best students are always the ones that already started learning how to do what I'm teaching them before they came to me. And then I think my advice and my help at the college level is a lot more valuable because they've got some context to wrap it around. So,
Right, and that's a rarity, right? So unfortunately, not everyone in the United States have a school like you guys where you're able to actually teach and you're proactive about the technology, and it's really a rare thing, and not just in the United States but everywhere around the world. We're seeing a lot of issues where we're delivering a drone, but when we get to that area, whatever part of the world it is, Peru or Brazil or whatever, nobody knows how to operate it, or nobody knows how to maintain it, because it's just the lack of information that is actually out there. And so we're really happy that your team or your school or you guys are very proactive, and one of the first schools that I actually know that created a curriculum around drone technology.
I love it. Well, Darryl, this has been so great. I'm so appreciative of your time and for you coming and being on the show and doing this. And thank all of you for watching or listening. If you want more information about drone careers, or you can get educated to help you get into the drone industry and to help your drone career take off, please go to californiaautomated.com. Find us on social media, like, share, subscribe, and learn. This has been another awesome episode of the California Automated Drone Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Josh Friedman, and we've just spent some time with Darryl Anunciado, reminding you, fly safe and fly often.